Hey, welcome back everybody to Handicap Hustle. I am your host, Jim Breslo. We are with our professional handicapper, Richard Frazier, coming off of a bye week last week for Rich. Rich, we give you one bye week a year, so that was last week. You're coming off the bye. We didn't get a chance to cover it last year. We had some health issues, but I see that you look like you fully recovered and the rosy pink has returned to your cheeks.
Oh, good.
So, yeah, whoa, hold on, lost my headphones. Hang on a second. All right, I'm back. So let's bring everybody up to date on how you're doing on the season. As people know who've been tracking us on this show, we go over Rich's three picks the Monday or Tuesday after the weekend to see how he did. There's no hiding the ball here. Everything is transparent, unlike most sports handicappers who like to fudge their results. Rich doesn't do that. He now, after is it 9 weeks in, 8 weeks in? I think it's not, I think it's
Yeah. We just finished week 8.
week 8. So
I'm
essentially
sorry,
halfway
week,
through.
week 9. We just finished week 9.
Week 9, yeah. So we're about halfway through the season,
Yeah.
and he stands at a 12-11 winning percentage. It's come down a bit. Rich started off red hot, and then hit a couple snags. The week prior we were 1-2, but you came back this past week with a 2-1 week. Now standing at 12-11 on the season. What do you have to say for your record so far this year?
Well, I was disappointed I didn't get the 3-0 sweep yesterday. I lost that game by 1 point yesterday. That was the Giants game. The Giants went for 2 twice during that game and failed to convert on either of those. And all I needed was a point, and I was a winner. And
So yeah, let's officially go over what your plays were for the week. You had the New York Jets, who've been cold, cold, cold. I think they had about a 5 or 6 game losing streak, all kinds of problems. New coach, Aaron Rodgers, not appearing to be the same. They bring in Devontae Adams to right the ship. That doesn't seem to work. But with balls of steel, you had no problem picking the Jets -2. That was the Thursday night game, and the based on the points, they covered easily, but it was actually a pretty close game, and that one could have gone either way. And that was the one that in the first half didn't they take away a touchdown from the Jets because the guy spiked the ball too early.
yeah, I let go of the ball before he crossed the end zone line.
That was so funny. I was watching that game, and that was the thought that I had when he went across the line. Was it on an interception? Or no, it was just a completion from Rodgers, right?
Yeah, it was just a completion, and he just dropped the ball too early.
Well, yeah, he was celebrating, and we've seen that play before. That's not the first time that's happened.
No, no.
I mean, insanely stupid. But at that point, Rich, you must have really thought that the betting gods were against you because you desperately needed an opening night win there. And after that happened, I'm just wondering what exactly you did.
Well, I actually was busy and missed the first half of the game, and I turned the game on at halftime to see the replay of that, and I'm like, boy, I'm glad I didn't see that in real time. So, but no,
Yeah. I would have. What do you think you're?
I still felt confident in the Jets. Like I told you before, I think Aaron Rodgers still got it. He did get a touchdown pass to Devontae Adams on a play. Probably everybody thought they were going to run, but they wanted to put that game away, and that touchdown did it. So.
Rich, so yes, we're fortunate that you didn't see that play in real time. I'm just curious what you likely would have done. I'm trying to see what happens in the Frazier household when you're watching games that you got money on the line and something like that happens? Would you have thrown
Well,
something at the television set
what
or
am
what?
I going to do? I can only take so many blood pressure pills a day. What am I going to do? The guy drops the ball early. Obviously, I don't want to lose out on a touchdown, especially in Jets games. Touchdowns seem to be at a premium. So I would have been extremely disappointed, but still, the game was close at the half, and I knew I had a chance to win it. So I told myself that I'm not going to have a stroke over these games, and I've just taken a little bit of a different approach after that 3-4 week span I had there where things
In
didn't
other
go.
words, you now make sure that you take a Xanax before each game just to stay steadier. Because I mean,
I
I know you were not happy after the prior week of going 1-2, drawing to even, and then the first game of this week to have had that happen. I have a feeling your reaction would have been a little stronger than you're letting on. I mean, at least some curse words coming out. Would you have had a cocktail in front of you? You typically drink when you watch the games?
No, I don't. I don't drink while I watch the games. No,
No drinking while working.
no. I save that for later in the week.
Okay. So I have to say that I bet against you on that one. I had no faith in the Jets. I've been betting against them pretty much all season and doing very well, so I had to stick with it. So already I was feeling bad that I didn't follow your pick and I was 0-1 while you were 1-1. Then you pick another perennial dog this year, the other New York team, the New York Giants. They were getting 4 at Washington. That's another team that, as you know, I've been very fond of this year. I feel that they've been underpriced throughout the year. I don't understand it. This guy Daniels, was a MVP candidate, and then even when Mariota came in, they did great. So the lines on Washington, actually, this game was at New York, I should say, but I feel like Washington's been underpriced. They were giving up 4 at the Giants. The Giants suck. So again, I went against you and I stuck with my Commanders and I eked out a win. I didn't follow the game that closely, but you're saying I was lucky to win because, oh, did the Giants do the whole thing when you're down by 2 touchdowns? You in the fourth quarter, you go for 2 points?
Yeah, they were down by 8 twice in that game and scored a touchdown and went for two different 2 point conversions and missed them both, which would have made all the difference in the world for me.
Right. Yeah. So they were down 24-10. They score a touchdown with 9 minutes to go in the game. And rather than making it simply 24-17, they go for 2. This is this new thing that has started in the past few years. Supposedly, it's an analytics play that I guess I sort of understand, but not quite, because I think the odds of completing a 2-pointer are less than 50-50. Otherwise, they'd always go for 2 points, right? I think success rate is, do you know what it is? It's probably around 40%, 45%.
I would agree with that.
So that's why you rarely go for 2. But somebody concocted this idea that if you're down by 2 touchdowns in the fourth quarter, that you should go for 2 because even if you miss, if you make the 2, now you're basically guaranteed to win if you score another touchdown, right?
Right,
If you
right.
miss the 2, you have another opportunity, albeit only a 40 to 45 chance of hitting it, but your odds of missing both 2 pointers are very low, right? Or lower, and then that's the theory as to why you should go for 2.
Yeah,
Go
I
ahead.
mean, ESPN started this analytics that they put in the bottom right hand corner of the screen where whatever the situation on the field is, they run it through their algorithm, and ESPN says whether you should go or not for it on any fourth down play or a 2 point conversion. I don't get it. I mean, I think you have to look at each situation independently and then make your decision based on that. I think coaches should go back to coaching and let analytics do their analytics, you know.
So, I mean, that game was relatively in hand for Washington. That would have been a backdoor cover, as I call it, had you pulled that off. Although you are correct that, but for the Giants going for two and missing, they could have lost that game by 3, in which case you would have covered. Instead, they lost by 5. So a very tough loss for you. A nice win for me that got me to 1-1. And then we've got the Miami Dolphin game. You took probably the 3 worst teams in the NFL, which is why I say you've got balls of steel to be handing out these picks to your players. But the analytics are what they are. They did have Tua back, so the Dolphins are definitely on the way back in a totally different team with him in there. And that one you barely covered because the Bills seem to have that game in hand. I went against you again on that one. Took the Bills at home, and I paid for it because they only won by 3.
Yeah, I had a feeling that Tua came back last week and you know, he was a little off. He hadn't played for 3 weeks or so, and yeah, him and Tyreek Hill seemed a little out of sync. Plus, they have Waddle, and they just. I had a feeling that they were going to put it together this week more than they had the week prior, even though their record in Buffalo has been horrendous. But that number was big enough that yeah, the Dolphins could lose the game and still cover fairly easily, and that's exactly what happened. It was almost a battle of who was going to get the ball last, you know. So
Yeah, well, you had to be happy with Buffalo winning on a field goal because otherwise it would have gone into OT. And who knows? If they had won the coin toss, they would have gone down and scored. And I guess that would have resulted in a push. You and I have complained about that overtime rule before. And I think that happened in the Rams Seattle game, right? Didn't the Rams get the ball first and go down and score a touchdown to win?
yeah, that did happen.
Yeah. Yeah. The two dumbest rules in NFL football, which is, in my view, the kickoff and the overtime rule that they just absolutely refuse to change, despite again and again this happening. One team gets the ball, drives down, and the other team doesn't even get a chance to counter it.
Well, yeah, I mean, these teams when they're in overtime a lot of times that they want to secure the ball. They don't want to take a lot of risks. They especially with the Josh Allen who has a propensity to turn the ball over. I think that they were more than happy to get out of there with a field goal win.
So Carolina, your favorite pick this year, that but for your Carolina picks, you would have a very significant, nice winning record this year. You're 1-4 taking Carolina. You stayed away from them this week, but
And they
I bet them,
win.
my friend. I bet them because I think they were getting like 8 points at home against the Saints that were on like a 6-game losing streak, and the Panthers not only covered but came out with a win.
Yeah, that game closed at 7, but yeah, I mean, if there was a time to pick the Panthers, that probably would have been it. But I wasn't feeling really good about my record, so I did a little tweak into the numbers. What I don't want to happen is I don't want the same teams coming up perpetually every week. And so I did a little tweaking, which is going to give me a little more variety in terms of the teams I have. And first week, a success, 2-1, could have been 3-0. So expect to see a little more variety out of me.
So are you saying that your analytics were pointing to Carolina, but you shied away from them because of your 1-4 Carolina
Well,
record?
well, my analytics lean towards Carolina. Carolina didn't have a strong enough deviation to be in my top three, but
Okay. So
if it,
if they had been in your top three, you would have gone with them yet again.
yes, I would have.
Excellent, excellent. That's what I wanted to hear. Let's see. We got Monday night game coming up. Apparently, we're going to post this in time for the Monday night game to talk a little bit about this and give people a lean on this. This was not an official pick of yours, but we have Kansas City, the only undefeated team left, correct?
Yeah, yeah,
And so that means the Miami Dolphins haven't had their celebration yet, being the only team to ever go undefeated all the way through the Super Bowl. The Patriots, of course, had an undefeated regular season and then ultimately lost in the Super Bowl. So no one has been able to replicate what the Dolphins did. I think they were 17-0 total. These days, you'd have to go 20-0
well,
because
yeah, that year they went 17-0. There was a 14-game regular season, a 2-game playoffs, and a Super Bowl. So I mean, it's really not, it's apples to oranges.
Yeah, well, it's just gotten tougher. It's 3 games tougher. It's still potentially doable. The Chiefs are
But
7-0. Yeah.
even in today's football climate, it's really hard to run a 17-game table regular season, let alone playoffs. The Chiefs have probably gone longer undefeated this season than any team in recent history that I can remember. And I mean, the Chiefs being a 9-10 point favorite tonight, they probably have a good chance of winning this game as well. Although us being Tampa Bay Buccaneer fans in this house, partially because we are Steeler fans by nature. My lean is to the Buccaneers plus the points.
Yeah, you do tend to lean toward the dogs. What I'm looking at on this game, Tampa Bay, they kind of impressed me early, but they've really shown a lot of defensive weakness. The holes are starting to, the cracks are starting to show.
Well,
And
especially when you lose your top two wide receivers,
okay, yeah, who is that? Is that Mike Williams that's out?
Mike Evans and Chris Godwin.
Uh-huh. And then Kansas City, are they coming off a bye?
Uh, I believe they are.
I know they've had a bye already, so I think they might be coming off their bye or their bye was recent. Anyway, I just sense that they're going to be pretty fresh for this game. As you pointed out before, Kansas City does seem to excel in the big games. They have some letdown games, but a Monday night game is always a big game.
Well,
You
yeah,
know,
but I don't know that this is a big game. It's not a Chief 49er matchup. It's not a Chief Raven matchup. I mean, they're playing the Buccaneers, who have a 500 record. I could see the Chiefs playing this one out just well enough to win. I mean, that's the way I see it
let,
being.
let me put this one on you. If you're allowed to buy half points, and let's talk about this a little bit, you know that I like to buy half points, and usually I think you kind of advise against buying half points. I don't even know what Vegas offers. Does Vegas allow you to buy as many half points as you want?
Uh, when I go into the book personally, because I don't bet on apps, they allow me to buy up to 2 points.
Okay. So I've seen an app that allows you to buy up to 3 points. And so let's just take this game for a second. Kansas City, if you wanted to bet them straight up, is minus 460. You got to lay $460 to have a chance to win 100 to take the Chiefs straight up. That's how big a favorite they are because they're -9. But I could buy 3 points and have it at -6. It would only cost me minus 170. So it's an extra $60 and you're -6. Yet, if you wanted to go from all the way from -9 down to -6 to even, you got to lay 460. Does that seem? That's always been confusing to me why that's so expensive to go to zero when for minus 170 I can get a -6. Now you got the Kansas City Chiefs -6 tonight. That's a pretty nice play. I think you'd feel a lot more comfortable about taking the Chiefs -6.
Well, anytime the number's lower, you're gonna feel better about it, but you're also falling under that touchdown threshold.
Right. All they got to do is win by a touchdown. And I
And
don't know,
just
six,
to,
six.
just to make a correction, the Raiders or the Chiefs were not off last week. They played the Raiders last week, and their
Okay.
bye week was, I think, week 6. So just to
Yeah.
clarify.
Well, and I kind of look at was their prior game a tough game? If they played a tough road game at San Francisco, for instance, that would concern me. A Raider game, that doesn't overly concern me. And the
And
Bucks,
the Raiders seem to play the same way every week. Of course, we get a lot of Raider coverage here because we're the home market, and they always seem to come out and score that first touchdown. And it's like, oh, Raiders got a chance to win, and then the second half just goes to pieces on them.
let's see what remind myself. Oh, yeah. The Buccaneers were at home to the Falcons. Falcons are actually coming on pretty strong. They're looking better and better every week.
They
But
are
that's a game that
the quarterback investment is looking better and better as the season goes on. Yeah.
yeah. So the Buccaneers gave up 31 points at home to the Falcons last week. Now they got to go to Kansas City, and I don't think Kansas City has any injuries to speak of. I'll also note that the week prior they gave up 41 points to the Ravens. The week prior to that, they gave up 27 to the Saints. Week prior to that, 36 to the Falcons. So, yeah,
Well,
I think that's
if the Bucks have a weakness, it certainly is their secondary. As long as they can keep the game close and have the ball, they can score points. Now, that being said, I'm saying that with Mike Evans and Godwin in there. How much of a difference that's going to make in their offense, I don't know, but uh, just as a casual Monday night viewer and wanting to root for the Bucks, I'm going to take the points on that game.
all right. Well, before we let you go, I would be remiss if we didn't talk about the presidential election tomorrow. There's been a lot of wagering on this. It's probably the most wagered on presidential election in history. It's not legal to wager on it anywhere in the U.S., even though there is some website that I've been hearing about, Paraplay or something like that. Have you heard about this website that somehow thinks they're accepting legal bets on the election?
I'm not aware of it. No, I do know it's illegal in the state of Nevada to bet on presidential elections, but
Well,
outside of Nevada, I'm not sure.
Todd can jump in if he knows what I'm talking about. But supposedly they won some court case. But for the most part, the only place you're able to bet the election is offshore. And what's pretty interesting heading into tomorrow is about 2 weeks ago, it was an even money bet as to who was going to win the election, Kamala or Trump. Then it went as high as about -220. Trump was over a 2-to-1 favorite uh, up until a few days ago. And then in the final days, He's dropped down from minus 220 to minus 155. So he's still favored, but they're seeing something moving toward Kamala. So this has been in originally she was favored, I think, when she first got the nomination. So any predictions for tomorrow? Who would you would you take Kamala as the dog and lay 100 to win 125, or would you take Trump minus 155?
I'm going to avoid this question at all costs. I am not going to discuss politics on this show.
This isn't politics, this is gambling. This is you. We don't
Uh,
have to talk about who you want to be president. We know you want Trump to be president, but what we're talking about is who would you bet on based on those odds? Or do you just not
I'm
follow
sorry.
it?
I'm going to have to abstain.
Well, I'll
Please.
jump in for you then, Jim. So,
Thank you, Todd.
yeah, no problem. I'll be the one who isn't wearing the dress right now. But I will say the when you look at this and you are right, where Trump was leading as far as odds go to win the White House. The other side of this, though, is that when Iowa, and I think it was some fictitious poll that came out that actually had Harris winning Iowa by 3 points, that's what changed and flip-flopped the odds to help Kamala Harris. So I'm not exactly sure why that came out. I'm starting to think that it's a conspiracy, that somebody had a lot of money on Harris and decided to post this fake poll out and try to flip-flop things. But you guys know this business better than I do. But that's where we stand right now. But you are right, though. If you want to bet on this election, you have to go offshore.
Yeah. Yeah. Like I said, I've been hearing some story about a company. I don't know how they do it. It may be, where they match two people together. Somehow they're skirting the laws that prohibit this. But, it is questionable. Why is it prohibited when betting on sports is legal? In the UK, they had a big scandal because I'm pretty sure it's legal in the UK. The UK is crazy on betting. And they had a bet as to an over under when the next prime minister election would be. And there was a genuine scandal where they thought someone inside the prime minister's office was trying to play with what the date of the election would be, because they do it totally differently there. They call an election and then it has to happen in 90 days, etc. Totally different than our scheme. So people were betting on when would the next prime minister election likely be called. And when I was traveling Europe recently, a couple months ago, it was all over the news. It didn't really hit the news much here, but a huge betting scandal that somebody in the prime minister's office was trying to fudge when the date would be because they had money on it. So,
Right. Interesting. Well, here's the most recent data here. So Trump was favored at a UK bookmaker, Bet365. I'm sure you guys have heard of it. He was standing at minus 188 a week ago. His odds, though, and this is just as of an hour ago, are now minus 138. Harris's odds shortened from plus 150 to plus 120 at the bookmaker. So we will have to wait and see how this all plays out. But I think there's some shenanigans going on why these numbers would flip-flop like that and so quickly, especially a few days. Maybe it was her appearance on Saturday Night Live. Who knows? But maybe it's just enough for the odds to suddenly change.
And we know an upset never happens, so we don't have to worry about
that. Well, that's the thing that Trump bettors are betting on, because all the polls are showing it essentially tied. Whereas versus Hillary, he was down like 7 in the polls, yet won. With Biden, he was down 4 or 5, yet barely lost. So that's why there's an assumption that, hey, with him dead even, this should be an easy win for him, unless somehow these polls have self-corrected and are no longer, showing Trump lower than he should be.
Right. Well, it remains to be seen. My prediction, though, I will say, and I've heard this from several people, that they expect that this thing is going to be drawn out for some time. The Supreme Court will have to intervene eventually, which probably won't take place until January. My prediction is that we do know what's going to happen by 1 a.m. Eastern time, Wednesday morning, because I do think that if Harris does win this, she's only going to win it by a thin margin, whereas if Trump wins it, he wins it by a landslide. And I believe that's what we're going to see, and therefore you're going to hear about this. About somebody's going to call it, the AP or somebody will call it very late on election night.
All right, Todd. Well, I like you getting down there. You won't put any money on it, of course, because we know you. You refuse to put your money where your mouth is. I would take the over on that because while I agree with your analysis, and I happen to think that Trump will win all of the swing states. However, I think that the margin of victory will be close enough in those swing states that they won't be able to call it on the first night, because they're only going to have 65% of the ballots counted. So it might be looking very good for Trump late Tuesday night, but it's not going to be close. He's not going to be blowing them out by enough in those states that they could actually call the election. So I think we're looking, my prediction is at least a day, if not 2 days after. Rich doesn't want to express an opinion on that, so we'll just leave it at that. My prediction is a couple days later.
If you guys could excuse me, I have to change out of my dress because I have to get to the hospital.
Where you're going to put on another dress.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, buddy. We will let you go. We look forward to your picks this week. And don't forget, everybody, go to Substack, Handicap Hustle on Substack to get our free newsletter. And you can subscribe to get Rich Frazier's picks for this upcoming weekend. What's the going price right now, Todd or Rich?
It's actually, we still have the Halloween special going on, $10.31 for 1 month of picks. You definitely want to take advantage of it because the price is going to increase starting next week. So get these picks for $10.31. You will not regret it.
Before all the winners start piling up. There's going to be winners piling up. Second half of the season, the winners pile up.
He has a history of doing very, very well in the second half of the season. Okay, everybody, check out Handicap Hustle on Substack. Thank you, Rich. Thank you, Todd. We'll see you all next week on Handicap Hustle. I'm James Breslo.